have two big stories that have come out over the last couple weeks, many of which I will be referencing from The Athletic. The guys and girls over there do such a great job of reporting, some of the best in the business. And both of these stories have multiple articles covering them. So we have a little bit of shady dealings, a double feature, two stories, and we're going to get into it. And obviously the first one we're going to start with is the big one, the big ticket item. What a lot of people are wondering, what the heck is going on and what does it all mean? We had the Cleveland Guardians pitchers, Luis L. Ortiz and Emmanual Clase, indicted for, well, betting and then influencing the games in which they were playing in. And we were hoping this wasn't what actually happened. And it turns out it might be. Now, there are still going to be trials, and this is going to be an ongoing process, and there's going to be a lot of discovery and evidence put forward and rebuttals made and all that kind of stuff. So we're not going to draw any judgments on like what actually happened, what didn't, but some of this stuff, at least reported in The Athletic by Zach Meisel, I believe, did much of this reporting with a pickup by Ken Rosenthal, also participated in the latest article covering it. But basically, we're just going to go through this whole situation, and I'm going to treat it like a trend on the internet, where I am going to explain the thing using a mind map. If you don't know what a mind map is, it's going to involve the whiteboard. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. But we're going to try to figure out all the points that happened, how it all kind of unraveled, and what compelling evidence points to one way or the other what was going on, and then what that could possibly mean for not only these guys and not only for the Cleveland Guardians, but just baseball and betting and just everything involved. I have a lot to say, so we're gonna go right into it. Okay, so these three articles are the ones I'm going to be referencing. Okay, we have what we know about MLB's gambling investigation. This was put up in July of last year. This is the day that Clase got suspended after Ortiz had 3 weeks prior. So at this point, we know both those guys are up. This was actually then updated on November 9th after the indictments came out. And then we also are going to get into this one with more information. And then we have the last one where we were able to get some text and stuff reported on. So now we know exactly how some of the communications happened, and it's looking worse and worse and worse for these two gentlemen. So as always, I highly recommend checking out Zach's prior work and everything else he does. He does a really good job, but also read the full articles on The Athletic if possible. They have a very affordable subscription system, and I think they do a really good job, and there's a lot of content there. So if you are looking to support a publication directly, I would highly recommend them as one of them. But obviously, do whatever you need to do that your life needs you to do. Okay, so let's get into the facts, okay? Here's the general gist of what's happening for anyone who's missed it or maybe hasn't read Super New. They know that's going on, but they don't know exactly what happened. Basically, both Emmanual Clase and Luis L. Ortiz were indicted, meaning they were officially charged, formally charged, with the following charges. Wire fraud conspiracy, honest services wire fraud conspiracy, which is kind of like, hey, I'll change what I do if you give me money for it, right? Conspiracy to influence sporting contests by bribery, kind of the offshoot of the prior one. And then money laundering conspiracy and a potential sentence. So if they got maximum for every charge put out, it could be up to 65 years in prison if convicted on all charges. So that's the type of thing we're talking about here. Now, this is white collar crime. It's a lot of money moving and stuff. Very rarely is the maximum sentence given out for those things, right? Because the harm a lot of times is to institutions. It's hard to prove that you're truly harming indirect people, and usually harsher punishments go for that. So just putting that out there. But still, the potential is terrifying if you were them, and kind of eye-opening if you were just following along like we are. Now, that's just, that is just how the law is covering this. But we also have rules in baseball, so they're going to have something as well. We've talked about this a lot. We've talked about it a lot with the Pete Rose when he was posthumously reinstated along with the Black Sox and stuff. We talked about Rule 21, the rule that is read to every Major League Baseball team, word for word by some executive from the team in spring training. Every year you get it, and then you get a handout put on your, like, there's no excuse to not know what this is. It's a one-page thing, and there's two major clauses which these guys are probably going to be affected by. We have Rule 21D, Section 2, and 21D, Section 3. Any player, umpire, club, or league, official or employee shall bet any sum whatsoever upon a baseball game in connection with which that bettor has a duty to perform shall be declared permanently ineligible. This happened recently to an umpire, right, that was suspended after I believe during the 23 season and was declared ineligible last year. I am blanking on his name, but we covered that as well. And then D, or Part 3 will also probably apply betting with illegal bookmakers, because it's not always illegal bookmakers, right? It could just be like insider trading and you're just like doing it with your family. This wouldn't come in, but there is additional, outside of just being ineligible, there is additional things that can happen. Penalty based on circumstances at the commissioner's discretion. I'm never a fan of Rob having any discretion over a punishment, but that is in play here. So these are two things to keep in mind. There's no excuse to not know these, and these are the two that are probably the biggest ones. Rules broken. So keep that in mind. There's two things here. There's MLB punishment, and then there's legal punishment. Obviously, legal punishment takes precedent, and nothing will probably be given out by MLB until legal punishment is covered. So just know that is kind of how things are going to play out here. Okay, moving on. So we're gonna get into how this whole thing's played out with our handy dandy whiteboard, and I have pre-prepared. I've pre-prepared some information, which I am waiting for it to pop up. There it is. Okay, so this is how we're going to do this, and I'm going to try to visualize, because there's a lot of moving pieces here. There's a lot of different things going on, and this is just fun because I can point out what the heck's going on. All right, so. Now, here's the information we know right now. Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz both suspended in July of this year with pay. The 28th for Clase, he was second, and Ortiz was on the 3rd. He was the first one, the inciting event, the one that brought us all the attention to this whole thing, okay? So here's how it worked. They focused on prop bets, okay? So if you don't know what a prop bet is a bet on a very specific outcome on a very specific event in a game. Baseball loves prop bets because there's so many things that are happening, right? One thing they really focused on for these two guys, or the prop bets that were focused on the most, they thought they were the most confident that they would get the outcome they wanted, was pitch result, like a ball or a strike or a hit or whatever, and velocity. So the interesting thing is the velocity is always an over-under. So like basically depending on the pitch you throw, you can kind of game that. And I think they saw that opportunity. So for example, Emmanuel Clase throws 100 miles an hour with his fastball and his slider's 90 miles an hour. Okay, he doesn't have to do anything differently to make those things way different. So if the line is 95, you throw a slider. If you want to be below that, you want to throw a fastball if you want to be above it. That's the gist of things. So we're going to go off velo here. And we're going to go off result. Okay? So that's how we're doing these bets. So the pattern usually was, like I just said, they pick the pitch, and then generally, either way, they would just throw it in the dirt.
Kratz Pop Quiz. What has 35 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, 27 essential vitamins and minerals, comes in excellent flavors like, of course, chocolate, vanilla, but chocolate peanut butter, my favorite. No added sugar, gluten-free, under $5 per meal, and is ready to drink.
Go out the house, get yourself a Huel. Look at you. You even have one right there. Ready to smack that, John? Chocolate peanut butter, chocolate, and vanilla. Deliciosos.
Also, there is a new Daily Greens ready to drink. 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods. Only 25 calories on that one. 4 grams of fiber. There's flavors like blueberry, apple, peach, Huel makes healthy eating simple. They also just launched into Target stores nationwide. Try both products today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with the code FOUL at huel.com/FOUL. Use that code FOUL and fill out the post-checkout survey to help support FT.
So we're focusing on throwing it in the dirt so that we can guarantee it's a ball and we can make sure that nothing actionable is going to happen on the pitch. Now, there is one pitch that got out of the way here. We'll cover that in a second, but that is it felt automatic at that point, and that's why they honed in on this side of things. And like I already mentioned, the velo differences were the biggest thing. So this is kind of how they ran through it. Okay. So there was communication involved, and Clase was kind of the guy that led this. There is evidence, we'll talk about this in a minute when we go through the timeline, but there is evidence in 2023 that he was already doing it before Luis El Ortiz was even on the Guardians with him. So we're going to do their timelines after this. We'll do Clase, then we will do Ortiz. So there were two ways of communication. They texted. Some of these texts were crazy timed. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then there were also calls, many of which were in game. So, like, we had the closer that's supposed to be in the bullpen fielding calls 10 minutes before he pitched. I don't even know. That's crazy. Allegedly, that's what was happening. I don't know if it was actually him or somebody else with his phone. Either way, it's kind of crazy, but like, I'm trying to think about how it's even possible being a reliever myself. And that's insane. So we were going through text, we were going through calls. There's a big call and text paper trail and a lot of other evidence that's gonna come out as well. And when things didn't go well, there were gifts, like gifts exchanged as well. So, and then there was a paper trail. So this is how they're catching these guys, right? We have the text, we have calls. There's a paper trail where they can track how much money was won, because that's all tracked on the apps they were using. And then they have bank records to see how much money was changing hands beforehand too, because that also happened at times. So overall, Clase, the paper trail, Clase netted co-conspirators over $400K, which is crazy. Ortiz netted them over $60K. $60K plus, okay? So that's total about $450K plus total, okay? So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about up to $500,000 won over a 2-year period by the conspirators that were helping the bettors, the people putting in the bets, because at no point did either one of these guys put a bet directly on their own name in their own account, because obviously that's how you get caught the fastest. Like, that's a direct link. They tried to create some of these steps between them so they didn't get caught. Okay, so that is how the whole thing kind of played out over 2 years. The investigation started in July. They've now found things and they've been indicted, and all of this is going to play in. Okay, so let's talk about specifically Emmanual Clase's timeline, because he was kind of the ringleader, and it began, the first pitch in question was May 19th, 2023 of all times. Now, when we first covered this story in July, we quoted a tweet from friend of the show and fellow YouTuber Foolish Bailey, who posted a bunch of videos of Emmanual Clase spiking first pitch fastballs and sliders to start innings over a period of time. It turns out that I believe every single one of these pitches was in that montage, and he didn't have any additional information. He just went and found it. So just a YouTuber, a data YouTuber found this immediately. Like, he found it so fast. Isn't that, like, if that is what was happening, that was way too easy to catch. So just throwing it out there. Shout out to Foolish Bailey for his work on that. Okay, so let's talk about each one of these pitches really quick. I'm gonna go through it. May 19th, the first one, the bettors won $27K. And that day, Clase actually blew that save. So this was worth $27K. This one was worth $38K for his conspirators. This was a slider to Zunino that bopped up and hit him, and he had to take a timeout. So we have a blown save, a rattled catcher. Then on June 7th, we have $58,000 changing hands. So if you notice, these are going up. We're getting a little bit emboldened here. And this is where we had another slider spiked in the dirt, and it was just spiked again. So no one got hurt on this one, but it could have been. So these three have been the same thing. Like he's like, I think we have a pattern here. And this is where the text chain starts to go, and they start to like coordinate a little bit more. I think he ran a test run, it seems like, for a few weeks. Nothing got flagged, so we're going to keep going. And with all accounts, they didn't catch him until Ortiz joined in for years later. So then we move forward to 2015. So those were the three. Those three were in 1 year. Nothing happened in 2024, which was the year he was in the finals for the Cy Young. So if we were wondering, like, how did he pitch so well that year? It's because he didn't do any of this in 2024, or at least there's no evidence of that at this moment, or they didn't find any. Then this coming season, in May 13th, 2025, that's when the texts started to happen, okay? So this one, Clase actually provided $2,500. So basically, Clase funded this one, gave it to the bettors, and then they won $3,500. So, I mean, okay, that doesn't seem worth it, but it was a positive. There was a text that says, however much you can, $2,500 and under. So basically, they didn't want to get flagged. $2,500 was the maximum for some reason. And then the bettor came over to Clase's house after. So that connection's been made. And then in the 17th, we have Clase texted the bettor, "Are you ready?" The response was, "But of course." 10 minutes later, $10,000 was made. So $10K was made on this. And this is texts during the game. So now I need to pause here for a second. We have text during the game. When you are a reliever and you know you're going in the game, like texting somebody, especially in Cleveland, the bullpen there's no way to get to like you can't go back to the clubhouse really quick when you're in the bullpen and then run back, right? The bullpen's way out there. It's up 1,000 stairs. Like you have to take your phone with you. So again, there's a chance, and it didn't say, and I don't think we have this information yet. It'll probably come out during the trial. Is someone else could have been doing the texting. I don't know how or why you would text ready if there's no communication. So if we're assuming it's Clase, he has his phone with him in the bullpen. So he takes his phone, and because of the timing of this, like he must have been warming up, went to the bathroom, texted, went back out and warmed up. That's crazy. That's so risky. That's insane. Having your phone out in the bullpen is already the biggest no-no on the planet. So it's like, how do you even hide it from your teammates? So now you're hiding stuff from your teammates and you're hiding stuff. It's nuts. If that's what was happening. Now that's just it's conjecture here at this point because we don't know exactly when he was doing it. But like if he was, that's nuts. Okay. So later that month, we have another one against the Dodgers, pregame text. So now we are texting every single time, and this one was worth nothing because Andy Pages swung. So this is the one that did not work because it was a spiked first pitch of the inning. Andy Pages swung at it, and so after this, they text each other. I can't believe that just happened. Shout out to Pages for thwarting a betting scandal. That is, I mean, for lack of a better term, hilarious. Okay, and then the last recorded one we have is April 26th, and this was another one, 11K, was won by the bettors, and it was on a pitch below 97.25 miles per hour. Okay, that doesn't say mile. You got it. You get it. So like he threw a slider. He threw a slider in the dirt, and Pages swung at it first pitch. That was the night before, sorry. And so he just threw a slider here. Doesn't matter if it's a strike ball, whatever. It just has to be under 97. That's the best way he can do that. And he did it. So all of these pitches have been flagged, and then we have the indictment happen up here. Okay.
This episode of FT is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. Give me an example in Pennsylvania, Kratz.
Right down the street from my house, the Tap House. Not only is it an awesome place to hang out, get your beers, get your drinks, whatever it is, but you know what? The company has the simplicity of Square, and they give back to the community with 10% of all the proceeds that they bring in going back to community projects.
I love it. Sports and sports bars are so good at bringing together local communities, and you can actually take this ad as an excuse to go support your local spot and have yourself a day or a weekend in the neighborhood. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. These businesses are what make the neighborhood the neighborhood. So visit square.com/go/foul to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. Again, that's square.com/go/foul to learn more.
So all of this accounts for over $400,000 in money changing hands. And then we're going to really quickly cover Ortiz. So let's get into Ortiz's timeline real quick. Come on. Thank you. So Ortiz only has the 2 pitches. They were the same pitches from the original suspension. This is allegedly when he was recruited by Clase. And there was an agreement that both of them would share in the winnings, okay? So for example, Clase receives a payment. So one of these would be the payment for the first one here was $5,000 to Ortiz plus $5,000 also to Clase. So like they're splitting the winnings now at this point. If Ortiz is doing it because he's a starting pitcher, there's more opportunities. That was probably where a lot of this came from. They both get a little bit of a kickback. So now Clase is trying to double dip in this thing, even though, and he's also doing it as well. I think that he was emboldened by the first successful run happening and nothing kind of coming of it. And then June 27th was the last time it went up. And the payment increased to $7,000 to each. So now we're kicking it up a little bit, but now we're seeing a lot of patterns here, right? These pitches seem a lot more organized to me. And when things seem systematic and organized, that's when they start to get caught. And then you have all of the texts as well that are very easy to get once you open the investigation, which is probably when the investigation was open, this stuff went really, really fast. So at the end of the day, this $7,000 right here, they both made $12,000 with the winnings as well. So it went to $12,000 each. All right. So we've already covered how much went places and where it went. And a lot of this stuff feels very damning at this point. It's kind of tough for me to watch, frankly, because there's a boldness to the way this was done that it's not surprising they were caught, but also the motivation is what's interesting to me. And I want to talk a little bit about what all this means because, we're going to have lasting implications. Okay, there's a lot of people who are going to be affected, or a lot of things going to be affected. First of all, there's going to be the Guardians. Okay, so the Guardians they lose closer, who was on a team friendly and one of the best in the league. They lose their closer and they lose starting pitcher SP, who was young and controllable. I hate that word, but it is apt here. So they're going to lose a starting pitcher and they lose a very good closer, which was very controllable and also very cheap and also very tradable. So he was so valuable as a player, and to have it kind of go away over something this not that lucrative, and it's also, you have to like launder this. Like you have to hide this money, and it's not really like you're getting paid way more. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. But like, if they never return, like how to replace these guys? Like how how is the Guardians going to replace those two very big roles? But if any team is good at like finding value for not so much money, it's the Guardians, and it turned out to not really matter because they ended up winning the division anyways. So, moving forward, let me just scroll down the chat. Sorry, I'm missing a lot of chat here. Okay. So, the Guardians, very adversely affected, and there are some financial obligations as well. So, like what happens to the money, right? What happens to the money? Do we, Clase, he is currently on a 5-year, $20 million extension signed through 2027. So he had 2 more years on it. So what he had left to be paid is 4.9 and 6.4 million, which is crazy low, so low. He's still Clase owned. Clase owed 10 million, give or take, right? Plus 10 million plus. So he's not going to get that money. There's a very low chance he comes back and pitches, even if he's not indicted, or he is indicted already, even if he's not convicted. Now, nothing's owed to Ortiz, right? So, like, that just, he doesn't have guaranteed money. So there's nothing on the books for him. So, if anything, the Guardians are going to save $10 million, but they're going to lose one of the best closers, and that trade-off is not good. You can't get a lot more for that. So, but there is finances to do with it. I don't know why we make the decision when we're making this much money to forego that, all right? But then there's an impact on the game itself, right? The game now, there's question marks around that, and there's some really interesting things that are going to come out, right? So, one, like, how vulnerable is the game to this happening now? Like, how vulnerable is this system to being, like, is it happening a lot? Can it happen again? Like, how far could you take this? How far, like, what's the punishment going to be like, right? Are like education and prevention measures enough? Are we doing enough to make sure people don't do this? Because the ban for life thing clearly wasn't a big enough deterrent for people, which I feel like that's the biggest deterrent they could possibly have. I don't know what else you can threaten, frankly. Be like, hey, you're going to be banned forever and not make any money. And guys are like, okay, and then they do it anyway. Like I don't know what else you can say at that point. I feel like they've gone as far as they can, right? So if you're permanently ineligible, you're just not involved with the game anymore. There's nothing you can really do. So who else? If it's this easy, who else is doing it? Who else is part of this? Like I mentioned, would someone else have the phone? Is there other players involved? Did other players know? Did other players say, hey man, I don't want anything to do with that? Because that's entirely possible. Who knows, right? I don't know, but it might have happened. But that's another question. Is more people going to come out, and is it going to hurt other people? And how connected do you have to be for the Major League Baseball to care enough, and then the legal side to care enough for them to be conspirators, right? And then, can we talk about integrity? How is this going to affect fans' trust? Because there's always a meme going around on the internet that the game's rigged. People are buying World Series, whatever. Now we have this. Now that's going to be thrown around like crazy. We already see like Ohtani. Everyone gets mad at Ohtani because they think he was doing the betting or whatever, and like there's just no evidence of it. But whatever, like they're just not going to let it go. This is proof. There's like very strong proof. So if convictions happen here, how irreparably is the game going to be when you can't trust what you're looking at? It's like AI slop. Like we don't know it's real or not. Now it's happening in sports. That is not exciting for me. So, I mean, we're going to have to see like what is regulation? What regulation is going to come from this? I doubt anything. I don't trust anyone to regulate anything at the moment. How is the betting industry going to try to crack down on this stuff? Because they already have third-party watchdogs. They're trying to catch this stuff. They don't want it to happen because they don't want their integrity hit either. So is there going to be more there? Is it just more people watching? I don't know. I don't know how you can nip this in the bud fast enough to where this stuff doesn't happen, because in the scope of everything, this is like the amount of money, it's a good amount of money, but like it's nothing close to what like happened in the Ohtani thing. And even in terms of the money they're making and the market as a whole, it's barely a drop on the bucket. So like, it doesn't seem worth it, but like, is that enough? I don't know. And we're not going to know until this thing plays out. Okay. So, and the last big one for me, especially in the convictions, is like how do punishments change if like the games really didn't, like the outcomes generally didn't change that much. There was one blown save in there, but like he still pitched really well. Both of them did. So like the game outcome isn't it? Is that factored into much, or is it just every individual event it can be seen as its own game? We'll see. And that I think there's going to be a lot of precedent put together, and we're going to get guidelines for how this stuff's handled in the future. So it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm baffled, but like it's funny. Everything that it pointed to at the beginning is kind of what happened, and so it's going to be interesting to watch how this thing plays out in the future. So